Hey, so something that I want to talk about is my newfound love, or I guess I should say my revitalized love for gaming. I used to play games a lot when I was younger, but um, it's never really been like a passion of mine, I guess. I just kind of played them because like that's what I had to keep me occupied. Um, and I've been like on and off um, playing games pretty much my entire life. I've played pretty much everything. I think when I was younger, I was drawn more to more sort of like the competitive FPS style games, your shooters, a lot of like Fortnite, Rainbow Six Siege. When I got my PC, maybe Counter Strike or, you know, those types of games. Rust with my friends, Destiny, Destiny 2. Um, all super incredible games. But I've never really been big into like storytelling games or like first person or sorry, or like your really like cinematic style of games. And I guess I kind of just want to have a little unfiltered, unedited discussion about games and why I've gotten back into them, what I really love about gaming and what I've come to appreciate about gaming that I really haven't been able to sort of appreciate um, as a young person up until now. Um, and I think a lot of my newfound love for gaming has really been it's really come from, I I had a really busy college semester. It's summertime. Um, and I've had a lot of time to involve myself in media and gaming, PC gaming mostly, which I really wasn't doing during the school semester. Um, almost at all. I hadn't touched my PC in such a long time. It felt like for anything other than school-related things, I was mostly on my Mac, whatever. Um, but I really started, you know, delving into some content from some creators that I've watched in the past, but I've really been enjoying their content lately. These are people like Jake Baldino. These are people like Luke Stevens. People who really go in depth on video games. Matty Plays. People like that. Um, your channels like Game Ranks. Things like that. Really just like all the newest games. I've been keeping keeping a close eye on new releases and things, and I think it's really funny because I see the new games releasing and I get so hyped. Like Oblivion Remastered. I wanted to play it so bad. Um, and I never bought it. I still haven't. I still want to play it so bad. It's on my wish list. I have a lot of wish listed games like on Steam, and I just I just feel like it's so difficult to warrant spending the money on them, especially as game prices rise, and that's a completely different topic for a different discussion, these game prices. But, all the way, to some of the bigger things like the Switch 2. I have a Nintendo Switch. I've had it for a while. I play it off and on. I don't really play it that much. I never really have, but I have sunk some hours into some lovely Nintendo games. Your Splatoons, your Animal Crossing is a big one for me, and I know it's kind of dorky, but I love Animal Crossing so much. Um, you know, your Breath of the Wild. Oh, Lord, and Tears of the Kingdom. There are some incredible Nintendo games, and this when the Switch 2 was announced, I got really hyped, and I honestly still am, even after seeing the console. You know what I mean? I I think it looks great. I think that for many reasons, it probably isn't selling as well as Nintendo would have hoped early on. But um, it still looks like a great console. And I think one of the biggest issues with the original Switch is just the performance of it. It released, with that sort of obsolete hardware as it was, and for it to last so long, you know, up until now when we have new hardware to replace it. I mean, yeah, but I think it's great. I think it's great that they implement the new hardware, higher frame rates, major improvements, and it's looking great. And a lot of the new features I thought were going to be, really gimmicky. They turned out to be pretty decent. Like the mouse mode seems to be pretty good. I would say. Maybe once I get one, um, I'll go through it and see for myself. But until then, um, I'm just gonna speculate based on what I observe online. And so, but it looks great, looks great, and I'm excited to consume more media about it. I love consuming media, and I feel like such a dork, but I'm at a time in my life where I'm starting to realize that being my true and like unadulterated self is more important to me than putting on a persona for other people. And I think that, you know, while gaming is something that a lot of people sort of look down on as like and I really don't know why, but it's really looked down on as like this like useless hobby. I don't think that's true. I think gaming is for everyone. I think that everyone, can find a game that interests them, and it's just like any other hobby or form of media, like movies. Like there are people who are into movies. Like that's great. I'm not gonna, I can't sit through a movie for the life of me, but like I I think it's great people that can. You know what I mean? Um, and yeah, while I think it's one thing to make your whole personality about like your Fortnites and your you know what I mean. It's another to really like, you know, be obsessed with like, you know, the artistic, qualities of games and the new innovations that these games and devs and creators and artists are, putting into that. I mean, it's a lot of work in that, and I appreciate that. And I love a game that, you know, just does something new, innovates or like, for example, um, and maybe I'll make, some more videos, um, going into further depth about this game specifically, but one that I've been playing a lot recently is Death Stranding. I wanted to pick this game up as my first like cinematic masterpiece because I've seen, clips and shots from the game, but I've never really consumed much content about the game. I've never really looked into the gameplay, and it just seemed odd to me, so I never really got into it. But I just took a shot in the dark. I'm like, this game looks good, even if the gameplay sucks. Maybe the art will make up for it, and I'll just try to get through it and finish it. And for the first little while, that's kind of how I thought. I thought, the art and the game, the visuals were stunning, but the gameplay was just like too clunky and weird, and like some of the storyline was just like it didn't make sense out of the box, and it really just put me off. And I was like, I don't know if I can, I don't know if I can keep going, but I pushed through, and after a couple more hours of gameplay, I started to get hooked. Like I'm hooked. I don't know how far I am into the game. I'm maybe gotta be over 20 hours in. Probably past the midpoint. I would hope the game is long, and there are a lot of cutscenes early on. But I think Hideo Kojima did an incredible job um, with this game, and I'm excited to finish it. I really am. I find myself just sort of like, whenever I'm not gaming, just kind of like thinking about it, like, I I'd love to sit down and continue to play through Death Stranding, um, and you know, and move forward with my gaming journey. It's sort of akin to another hobby that I've been picking up recently too, which is reading. And it's like I find a good book and I just like whenever I'm not reading, I think about it. I think about reading and I think that's incredible. I think that to have a hobby that like you can just ponder about and daydream about when you're not doing it. Like that's incredible. I don't care what hobby it is. You can have any hobby. You know, no hobby is more valuable than another, I don't think. Well, I think that there are some healthier hobbies out there, you know, maybe your lifetime fitness kind of hobbies, you know. Reading I would say is a very healthy hobby. Um, no matter what you're reading. Um, and I don't think that playing video games is necessarily much less useful to you than something like reading. I mean, it keeps you occupied. It's a form of art. You're consuming art, you're consuming story, some games have a lot of reading in them, that's, anything that you consume, uh, you know, in that regard, I would say is healthy. Maybe having, screen time, you know, excessive screen time may be a bad thing, but uh, you know, for the most part, I think that gaming is a healthy hobby, and it's a hobby that I've been picking up and I've been enjoying a lot recently. Um, and I think that I'm going to continue to do that, and I'm hoping that this channel sort of acts as a catalyst for my continued love for the hobby, and I'd love to continue to make content about it and just talk. You know, I I find that a lot of my you know uh, a lot of what I want to do here is stems from watching those creators, like I mentioned earlier, Luke Stevens and Jake Baldino and Matty Plays, people like them, who really just I feel like I would love to be in that position where I can just sit down and talk about games and play games early and all that and that's really just it. But yeah. Anyway, see ya.